Okay, so think about the last time you or maybe someone you know had to undergo general anesthesia.
Oh boy, yeah.
Right. You're lying there in this incredibly sterile room, and the doctor tells you to, start counting backward from 10.
10, 9, 8.
Exactly. And you almost never remember hitting 7.
Never.
The world doesn't like slowly fade out like in a movie. It simply ceases to exist.
Right, it's just gone.
Yeah. The environment is perfectly clean, completely painless, and just entirely devoid of feeling. It's an engineered void.
Right, it's this artificially induced absence of friction, really.
Mhm.
You aren't experiencing reality at that point. Your consciousness is just, it's suspended in this state of perfectly managed stasis.
Right. And on an operating table, obviously we welcome that suspension.
Yeah.
But imagine applying that exact same mechanism to, like, the streets of a city, to the sky above,
Wow, yeah.
to the very architecture of human society itself.
That is a terrifying thought.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the world of chalk dust and neon fireflies.
Which is such a great piece.
It really is. And we're specifically focusing on the events surrounding the memory of Firefly's arc.
Right, the timeline from, 2138 to 2148?
Exactly. And since we all know the trajectory of these two characters, right, Ayers and Ivy, our mission today isn't to just rehash the plot.
We don't need a summary.
No, exactly. We want to examine the underlying mechanisms of this world. Like, we're looking at how profound sensory contrast, the engineered perfection of this neon anesthesia versus the really gritty, unyielding reality of analog friction.
Yes.
How that serves as the true battleground for human consciousness.
Right, and what's fascinating here is how the oppression isn't framed through your traditional dystopian tropes.
Right, it's not like 1984.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We aren't dealing with militarized police forces kicking down doors or these overt political manifestos being broadcast everywhere.
Mhm.
The author constructs an environment that serves as the antagonist by weaponizing comfort.
Weaponizing comfort. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, the pacification is ambient.
Yeah.
Like, the text just drops us right onto the pavement of a city that is described as, quote, too clean and too quiet,
Too quiet, yeah.
forcing us to kind of navigate this space where raw human emotion is essentially treated as a systemic anomaly.
Which is wild. And the mechanism driving this quiet, this pacification, is the lighting grid, right?
Yes,
The velvet lights?
the velvet.
Yeah, that specific sequence of pink, blue, pink, blue. It's this ambient, really hypnotic pattern that just blankets the entire city. And like the terminology itself, the fact that they call it velvet feels incredibly deliberate.
Oh, absolutely. It's so intentional.
Because velvet it's a luxury fabric. It dampens acoustics, it smooths over sharp edges. It feels soft against the skin.
Right. The terminology reveals the psychology of the control system. Because a cage that feels like velvet doesn't really register as a cage to the people inside it.
Right, they don't even know they're trapped.
Exactly. It registers as a premium experience. It's like the ultimate evolution of frictionless user experience design.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. If you look at the architecture of modern casinos, for example, they employ similar, albeit much more rudimentary, tactics.
Oh, right, with the lighting and everything.
Exactly. They pump in optimized air. They remove all the clocks so you lose track of time.
Yep.
And they use really specific lighting and these busy patterned carpets to keep occupants in this continuous, just unthinking loop of passive consumption.
Right, you just keep pulling the lever.
Right. And the velvet lights, they scale that psychological manipulation to an infrastructural level. They smooth out all the cognitive friction of daily life, just lulling the whole population into this state of docile compliance.
Man, and that brings us perfectly to the velveted lovers on the bench.
Oh, that scene is so haunting.
It really is. So, late October 2148, Ayers is walking past them, and she's maintaining that classic survival posture, right?
Hoodie up, eyes down.
Exactly, avoiding the glare. But she observes these two figures, and they're holding hands, so they're achieving this physical posture of intimacy, but they don't blink.
Right.
And they never look up. And the text notes very specifically that this absence of engagement is how you know they are entirely gone.
Yeah, it's a terrifying portrait of this hollowed-out humanity.
Totally.
The lights have successfully amputated their vitality just by removing the friction from their existence.
Yeah.
I mean, they are sharing physical space, but their consciousness has been entirely absorbed by this ambient pacifier.
I was trying to find a real-world analog for this state of being
Yeah.
beyond just, staring at our smartphones, because that feels a little too simplistic.
It is a bit deeper than that.
Right. It
Huh.
feels closer to the concept of sensory deprivation, but like inverted.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in a deprivation tank, you are isolated from stimuli so that you have to look inward.
Right. Your brain fills the void.
Exactly. But the velvet bombards you with a perfectly curated rhythmic stimulus so that you never have to look inward.
Oh, I see.
And you certainly never look outward. You're effectively paralyzed by comfort.
That's spot on. It's an overwhelming of the senses disguised as soothing. The system provides just enough sensory input, that gentle pink and blue rhythm, to occupy the brain's processing centers.
Right.
So it leaves absolutely no leftover cognitive bandwidth for critical thought, or anxiety, or rebellion.
Wow.
Yeah, the aesthetic of the world is literally doing the thinking for them.
Okay, so the inevitable question then becomes, how does a conscious individual disrupt a system that operates on ambient, frictionless comfort?
You have to introduce friction.
Exactly. Ira's response is to introduce mess. She introduces undeniable physical friction. She is walking through this velvet-draped world, armed with, of all things, schoolyard chalk and a matchbook.
The quintessential artifacts of the analog era.
Seriously. And I have to admit, I initially wrestled with this tactical choice when I was reading the sources.
Why is that?
Well, we are looking at a society that has engineered lighting grids capable of mass cognitive hypnosis.
Right.
They have mastered neurolinguistic programming through urban design. And Ayers is fighting a guerrilla war with calcium carbonate and sulfur.
It seems mismatched.
It does. I kept thinking, why not target the infrastructure? Why isn't she building like an EMP device or writing a virus to crash the lighting grid?
Right.
Relying on chalk just feels incredibly primitive.
Well, sure, but hacking the grid would mean operating within the Velvet's sterile digital framework.
Oh, okay.
You don't dismantle a psychological prison by simply changing the programming. You dismantle it by breaking the illusion of immateriality.
The illusion of immateriality.
Yeah, chalk is matter, it dusts the fingers, it smears. If Ayers were to digitally deface a billboard, the system could correct it instantly with an automated algorithm?
You'd just blink and be gone.
Exactly. But a chalk smudge on a pristine, frictionless wall cannot be deleted. It demands physical intervention. It actually requires a human hand to come along with a wet cloth and scrub it away.
Oh man, that physical residue is the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like an ontological statement. It proves a physical body occupied that space and made a choice.
Precisely.
And look at the specific messages she leaves. She writes, Ivy was here on the stairwell. Remember your name on the trash can.
Yeah.
And then, this is my favorite, directly across from the zombified lovers on the bench, she writes, the sky is still real if you stare long enough.
Which is just brilliant, because every single one of those phrases is a targeted strike against the Velvet's methodology.
Right.
Like, Ivy was here asserts historical permanence in a world that constantly overwrites the present.
Yeah, because it's always just right now in the velvet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, your name is a direct challenge to the erasure of individual identity.
So true.
And pointing out, the sky is perhaps the most profound of all, because the velvet limits your perception to the immediate curated environment, the pink and blue glow.
It keeps your eyes down.
Right. The sky represents the infinite. It's the unpredictable, chaotic universe that the system cannot control. She is explicitly challenging the citizens to endure the discomfort of reality.
Okay, so this reliance on the phrase Ivy was here, this pulls us directly into the thematic core of the whole narrative, which is the burden and power of memory.
Yes.
Because to understand the fuel behind Iris's analog rebellion, we have to examine that pivotal flashback to November 2nd, 2138.
Such a beautifully written sequence.
The sensory shift the author employs here is just magnificent. We transition from this cold, sterile, frictionless present to a night described as, quote, so sticky warm you could swim in it.
Yeah, that juxtaposition is vital.
Right.
The past is characterized by humidity and sweat and biological reality. It is deeply uncomfortable compared to the velvet, but is undeniably alive.
Yes, alive.
And the visual contrast is equally striking. We move from the artificial hypnotic pink and blue of the velvet to the organic, sporadic green blink of the fireflies, which the text refers to as, I think, little blinking souls.
Little blinking souls, yeah. And here we have 9-year-old Ivy, who has green hair, which kind of visually links her to the Fireflies.
Nice catch. Yeah.
She's sitting in the grass, whispering to these tiny bioluminescent insects. And when young Ayers, who has the magenta hair, when she approaches and questions her, Ivy explains that she is telling the Fireflies her secrets specifically because, quote, they're too small to remember. That's why it's safe.
Oh, it just breaks your heart. It highlights this really profound human desire to outsource our internal burdens.
Totally.
I mean, a 9-year-old child recognizes the heavy psychological weight of
Mhm.
holding onto secrets.
Oh,
She's actively seeking a void to cast them into.
right.
She wants the relief of confession without the vulnerability of being known.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Ivy is trying to discard her memory, right? She's trying to throw it away.
Right.
But Ayers acts as a mirror. Ayers catches a firefly, holds it, and suggests that maybe Ivy is the only one the Fireflies can remember.
Oh, that flip is so good.
And this causes Ivy to truly look at Ayers to see her, quote, whole. And the narrative explicitly notes that this was the moment everything was written.
Yeah.
The sheer irony here is staggering. Ivy initiates this interaction to escape the permanence of memory, yet she inadvertently cements the single most defining memory of Iris's life.
It's beautiful. It perfectly illustrates the paradox of human connection.
How so?
Well, we often try to protect ourselves through isolation or by, projecting our fears onto things that cannot hold them, like the fireflies.
Right, to keep herself safe.
Exactly. But true connection bypasses those defenses.
Yeah.
Being seen whole by another person anchors you to reality in a way that no systemic conditioning can easily undo.
Yeah. No amount of pink and blue lights can wash that away.
Exactly. Ayers isn't out in the streets of 2148 risking her life because she read some political treatise on freedom.
Yeah.
Her resistance is entirely fueled by the tactile, emotional reality of that sticky, warm night. The green blink of the fireflies and the feeling of being recognized, those are her cognitive anchors against the velvet's erasure.
Man, and this transitions perfectly into how memory actually converts into kinetic action.
Right, because holding a memory is passive.
Right. Holding onto a memory is a passive internal state, but breaking the velvet requires external momentum.
Yes.
And we see this escalation happen on October 28th. Ayers takes her chalk to a water tower and writes something intensely intimate. She writes, "You kissed me before the world got quiet."
Oh, it gives me chills.
Right. And then she strikes a match and physically drops it into a velvet flyer.
And that's the turning point.
It is. The flare of that physical fire sparks a reaction because a kid on the street sees the sudden burst of light and heat, and the kid doesn't just stare blankly like the lovers on the bench.
Right.
The kid runs. And the text distills this entire sequence into a single word: hope.
Yeah, the neurological implications of that moment are really profound if you think about it.
What do you mean?
Well, the velvet is designed to suppress the amygdala, to completely deactivate the human fight-or-flight response, replacing it with this flat line of passive acceptance.
Right. No fear, no reaction.
Right, so a digital simulation of fire wouldn't trigger a reaction. They'd probably just stare at it.
Oh, because it's part of the system.
Exactly. But physical combustion, the actual heat and unpredictability of a real flame, cuts right through the suppression.
The hardware overrides the software.
Precisely. The kid running is the reintroduction of animal instinct into a sterilized environment.
Yeah.
It proves that the human baseline hasn't been completely eradicated, it's merely dormant. The system's control is fragile because it relies on the completely uninterrupted flow of artificial stimuli.
Right. You introduce one chaotic analog variable and the hypnosis shatters. And that single shattered moment creates these immediate ripples. Because just 2 days later, on October 30th, at the Unzoned Theater, Ayers experiences the result of her friction. She receives what the text labels a whisper call.
Right, a whisper call. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the contrast between the ambient noise of the city and this underground communication is crucial.
Definitely.
The velvet imposes a quiet, like a forced, oppressive lack of meaningful dialogue.
Yeah.
A whisper, by its very nature, requires physical proximity. It requires intimacy and intention and secrecy.
Right. And she is approached by this girl with neon braids who informs her that her marks, all of them, have been seen.
Yeah.
And the medium of communication here is what really got me. The girl doesn't transmit a data packet. She doesn't send a text.
No.
She hands Ayers a physically folded piece of paper, a note from Ivy containing a really simple directive. Meet me where the Fireflies were.
It's brilliant. The resistance survives entirely because it operates outside the digital panopticon.
Right.
When the infrastructure of communication is compromised by this cognitive pacifier, the only secure network is human to human.
Right, because paper retains no metadata.
Exactly. It cannot be intercepted by an algorithm. A folded note relies entirely on the physical movement of bodies through space and the implicit trust between individuals.
You have to actually walk up to someone and hand it to them.
Right. The Velvet can monitor a digital grid perfectly, but it cannot hack a memory, and it cannot trace a piece of paper handed off in the shadows.
Man, and that just validates Ayer's entire methodology. The analog breadcrumbs, the chalk dust, the matchbook, those were the only frequency Ivy could have possibly tuned into.
The only thing she could hear through the quiet.
Exactly, and it all culminates on Halloween, October 31st.
Of course it does.
Right.
Ugh.
Ayers returns to the physical site of her anchor memory, the tree from 10 years ago, and the landscape has degraded, right?
Yeah.
The grass is shorter, the fireflies are completely gone, yet the environment still holds the resonance of the past. The text says the sky still hums.
Yeah, and Ivy's appearance at the tree is this visual testament to the cost of maintaining reality in a world designed to erase it.
Oh, she looks completely different.
Right. She is no longer the pristine child whispering to bugs. She has buzz hair, her jacket is torn, she looks feral.
Feral, yeah.
She bears the physical friction of her existence. And the description of her freckles is constellations that brilliantly ties back to Ayer's chalk message about the sky being real.
Oh, I didn't even put that together. The freckles as constellations.
Right. Ivy embodies the vast, unfiltered reality that the Velvet tries to hide.
That is so cool. And the dialogue in this reunion is stripped down to the absolute bare minimum, which honestly makes it hit so much harder.
Yeah, they don't need speeches.
No, Ivy just says, I remembered, and Ayers responds, I never forgot.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And the physical collision of their bodies is described as stars reborn, and the author makes a point to clarify the nature of their kiss.
Right. It's not a trope.
Exactly. It wasn't about romance in like a traditional sense. It was a, quote, real kiss, one that signified finding the rest of me.
Finding the rest of me.
And immediately following this physical connection, the environment reacts. The wind picks up, the leaves swirl, and the text leaves us with this huge declaration that the velvet fades a little.
The implications of that fading are massive.
Okay, so what does this all actually mean for the mechanics of this world? Are we supposed to read this as a purely localized psychological triumph? Like the velvet fading only for them in that specific moment because their internal reality is suddenly louder than the external programming?
Right.
Or is this a literal structural shift? Did they break the machine?
I think the text supports both interpretations simultaneously.
Really? How so?
Because in a society governed by cognitive control, the internal and external realities are inextricably linked.
Okay.
On a microscopic level, finding true connection shatters the illusion for the individual. The tactile, overwhelming surge of human intimacy acts as an absolute antidote to the numbing agent.
Right. It's the ultimate friction. A sensory input so dense and so real that the perfectly ordered pink and blue lights simply cannot compete for the brain's attention.
Yes, exactly. But on a macroscopic level, the fading of the velvet exposes the foundational vulnerability of the oppressive system as a whole.
Because it's fragile.
Yes.
Yeah.
The velvet is a consensus reality. It works by convincing every individual mind that they are entirely isolated, that the sterile comfort of the lights is the only state of being.
Right.
When two people anchor each other to a shared, undeniable reality, their combined consciousness creates a literal tear in the control grid.
Wow.
The swirling leaves and the rising wind, it suggests that nature itself, the physical world, rushes in to fill the vacuum created when that artificial pacifier weakens.
Oh, that's wild. So the system is a mile wide but an inch thick. It requires absolute universal isolation to function.
Right.
And a single memory preserved against all odds for 10 years was sharp enough to slice open the entire facade.
It's incredible.
It really is. It brings everything back to the core thematic argument, right? That human connection is systemic kryptonite.
Yes.
Which kind of forces us to look critically at our own environments.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we might not have literal pink and blue lights explicitly designed to wipe our memories.
Not yet, anyway.
Right, not yet. But the mechanics of ambient pacification are everywhere. We are constantly offered these frictionless pathways that demand our passive attention in exchange for comfort.
Yeah, the digital anesthetic is highly effective. It requires constant vigilance to avoid slipping into that velveted state.
Yeah, to avoid becoming the people on the bench.
Exactly. Sharing physical proximity while our consciousness is entirely consumed by, a curated feed.
Yeah. We have to actively identify our own fireflies. We have to
Mhm.
recognize the sticky, warm, chaotic connections in our lives that keep us anchored to reality.
Right.
Like, who are the people who see us whole?
And maintaining those connections requires effort.
It does.
It requires a willingness to cause friction, to pick up the chalk and leave a permanent mark in a world that would much rather we just sit quietly and enjoy the lights.
Man, that is so true.
And, as we contemplate the importance of breaking that quiet, there's a lingering critical detail embedded at the very beginning of the source material that completely recontextualizes this entire climax.
Oh, really? What is it?
Before the timeline of events even begins, the author provides Ivy's full title,
Okay.
Nanocapacti, the Talker.
Oh, wow, the talker.
Yes. For a decade, this society has been subjugated by an engineered silence.
Mm.
The velvet suppresses all meaningful expression, forcing resistance to operate in, chalk dust and hidden whispers.
Right.
The population has been pacified into total vocal submission. But the circuit is now complete. Ayers has found Ivy. The velvet has physically faded.
Yeah.
If this oppressal structure relies entirely on forced quiet,
Oh, my God.
we are left to imagine the catastrophic systemic damage that will occur now that the talker has finally been found and has her voice back.
Wow. What is she going to say out loud?
Exactly.
Man. Well, that is definitely something to think about.